I was chatting to some people on Facebook about the event, and someone, I think it's kindly described you as a mix between Fireman Sam and MacGyver.
Right.
And when we were talking, we were sort of like promoting you on Twitter and stuff in the early days, and we are kind of talking about the things you do, and it's volunteer with the Coast Guard, and saves porpoises and puppies and builds incredible global businesses. But one of the things we didn't talk about was your love of cooking and food. So
right.
I follow Robin on Instagram, and it's either him in a helicopter or something with a massive engine, or a barbecue. And I think one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a tradition in the team that you would cook a meal to represent one of the cultures or cities where your clients are based.
Every Wednesday we have a randomizer that gives you a random customer's country cuisine, and you have to cook that cuisine for the office. And our strangest country is Vanuatu, Pacific Island. I got that
cuisine?
one, which was bat and banana curry kind of
Bat
dish. Yeah.
Bat the mammoth.
We replaced it with pigeon for here. That's the strangest one.
And there's you got to do the alcoholic drink as well, or is it?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
And we've even brewed our own beer.
Okay.
We call it C2H instead of D4H, which is the alcohol. And Bad Decisions Porter, and the product's called Decisions.
Okay, cool. Did you bring one for everybody?
No. We're out.
Shame. Do you find that sort of activity helps knit the team together, or do you think that people get terribly stressed because they're terrible chefs?
We've had some dodgy meals. No, I think it's the atmosphere in the office is I always welcome. It's a very casual office, and it's not a high tech. Google, it's a lighthouse, right? So I always tell people
don't give it away.
Oh, okay.
Talk about the lighthouse later.
I tell people to treat it a bit like an apartment, and it feels that kind of, everyone's just doing their own thing, everyone's very much on their own schedule, and it was actually the accommodation unit for the lighthouse that we're in that's been knocked through. So the kitchen is actually a fully functional sort of mess. So that's why they kind of.
Who's the worst chef on the team?
I won't name names.
Okay. So you must cook a lot yourself, because that's not just your Instagram isn't just full of the team's cooking stuff. So who would you be most stressed about cooking a meal for? Anyone in the world, and why?
I have no idea. I actually don't know.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Stress.
So we move on. Give us sort of an overview of the product at present, and who your customers are at the moment.
So we have two products. The original one, called Decisions, is going about 8 years now, and that's all about record management, a system of record for emergency response. So it ensures that a response team, and that's a team who respond to anything, have their people trained, tracking their experience, tracking their qualified, making sure they're ready to respond. It checks all their equipment, make sure it's inspected, maintained, and that's ready to go. And then we take all their incident reports and we feed those back in as a feedback loop to better help them with budgets and better training and better equipment. So the kind of customers who are using that, they're everything from a fire brigade to a Coast Guard to a Navy to largest pharmaceutical site in the world are using it. Some of the largest oil and gas sites in the world. A complete diverse mix of people. We even have ghost hunters have an account who make sure their ghost hunting equipment is ready. Yeah, so we've got that in 16 countries.
Ghost hunters in 16 countries? Or
no, just one. They're in England.
Do you have a special price for those guys? I would charge them so much.
And then we have a new product that's just come out. Well, we've been working on it for nearly 3 years probably, but 2 years in development. And it's a very cutting edge incident management system. We've been building it with our customers. We're not in isolation doing it, but we just released the first production version of that at Christmas, and that is a real-time system for managing structured information as an incident's happening. So you could think of it like a very on steroids WhatsApp for managing a very big incident. Would be my best description.
Can you describe the value that a team, maybe not the ghost hunters, but maybe somebody in one of the response teams on the largest pharmaceutical site? What's the value that they're getting? By using the tool?
So I think the single thing, there's this magic that happens when they use it, that everything becomes organized. Typically they're coming from a world of spreadsheets and different databases and all sorts of systems, and they bring it all into this one dashboard. So we give them this dashboard view of, and it summarizes everything almost down to one green traffic light. You are ready to go if there's an incident. And you bring that up onto a bigger scale. That's one team. We deal with a corporate structure where they might have maybe 6 sites around the world, 6 facilities, and head of safety is looking at one green traffic light for the whole company. There is enough foam fighting fire at each of my oil refineries around the world. Okay. Green traffic light, I know I'm good. And it starts to go amber when levels reduce, or that. The trick to what we've done is provide a highly consumerized sort of front end for the guys on the ground, the guys at the scene, who are then taking out their phone and just using a very easy to use software, giving them huge amount of feedback and value on the ground, which produces very good data up higher up the chain. So we pass that data up through the management layers. Where everyone else in the space is failing is that they focus on the reporting for management, and then it feels like it's like a black hole. You're shoving data into nowhere as the guy on the ground, and it's into a horrible corporate system or database. It's a pain to use. We make it a nice experience there, and giving huge amount of value. What immediately happens is, suddenly you've got out of what was in the chief's notebook or in his filing cabinet, everyone say attendance at incidents. They've now got this competitive table of who's got the most incident hours, or who's fought the most house fires, who's done it, and it gives them all these lovely stats and charts as just a basic responder on the ground. You're getting all this back, and it just drives them to add more and more data and engage.
Okay, cool. We can unpack a little bit of that more maybe later, but as I said during the intro, this was very much your itch that you scratched. This was a problem that you're solving for yourself. Maybe talk us through that history.
I've done it about 14 years in the Irish Coast Guard, volunteering. So everyone has a normal job and carries a pager, and you've got sort of 10 minutes to try and get to the rescue base for an incident on the coast. And I started asking questions around, we've had this car here before, we found this car, there's a missing person. What happened the last 10 times? Maybe we can use some data here to know. And sure, it's over there in the filing cabinet, work away. And
this is just to take us back, this is what 7-8 years ago? Or
yeah, about 8-9 years ago I started having these kind of ideas. And I was probably just out of DCU, and I was starting to think I could build a database that would solve this. And so at the time I was working for Reuters in Singapore, and I built this very, very basic prototype. So it was like the most simple web app that was just recording incidents and to see, and we could export them to Google Earth and then start to see patterns and things like this. And
while you were on Reuters time?
In my evenings. That's the trick.
Okay.
So, and I just gave it to a couple of other teams up and down the coast that I knew in the Coast Guard, and they all said, yeah, this is fantastic, we love it. And that was say Friday evening. On Monday I gave my notice. I was just gone, and it was because I'd always wanted to do something. I knew there was something I wanted to do.
Tell me, what was that experience of Reuters like? Like how I graduated DCU as well. I didn't end up in Reuters in Singapore. So what was your focus at that
I was
stage?
on their graduate program, which is where they completely wrap you in cotton wool, send you 6 months in each department, 6 months in 4 departments. It was a 2-year program. And you're meant to then go into technology management within the company. And I came to the end of the 2 years of that, and I was looking around and realized, looking at guys who were there 20 years and going, I could do your job now. Well, that was my feeling. I don't want to be in this. And the guys who I did think, wow, they're senior, it wasn't what I wanted to do every day. So I always knew I'd do my own kind of company at some point, and this was just like the way I did it was just all I needed was the time in my head it was I just have to get a beachhead that I can get out of this. So if I can create something that creates me a basic salary, like that's all. I mean that was at the start. This is just a beachhead idea. I'm just going to get out and create something that's going to bring in, 2,000, 3,000 a month, and if I can create something that recurs like that, then I can do anything.
Right? So just to dig into that a little bit, was that in your head, I want to get the basic salary. Is it like the Tim Ferriss, like, 4-hour work week, so I can spend all my time,
No, this was
bodybuilding?
just.
Or
This was
you
just.
wanted to spend time doing more volunteering at the Coast Guard, or you actually
No,
wanted to grow
no.
business?
I wasn't. I had taken a break from the Coast Guard at the time. It was that I wanted to do my own thing,
Okay.
and I had a load of ideas. Like I had a book of ideas, a moleskin journal with like every idea, and where it came down to, I literally used to write down things like, what do I want to do? So it was like, I want a product that's subscription. It has to be a subscription product. It has to be a virtual product. I have no interest in shipping something hardware. There was all these kind of elements of that. There's like maybe 12 categories of thing, and then I would always compare ideas to this. Does it fit what I want to be doing? This one I just went, well, I think I can bring this to a certain amount of cash. That gives me a beachhead. That's freedom suddenly. Now, if I get that going, I can spend half of my other time working on a different idea. If this one's, it was just, I'm just going to get out and do it.
So looking around back then, 8 years ago, when you were looking at those sort of categories of things that you wanted to do, and does my idea square off against these things?
Mm-hmm.
Were you looking around the Dublin tech scene and saying, that person has got it right, that person definitely has got it on? Because you were very active.
There wasn't
blogging at
that
stage,
much
right?
of a scene.
Yeah.
Like, there was, it's like nothing like now. We used to go to what was at the time Intercom's office, so they were Contrast before Intercom. We used to hold, so about 5 of us, and it's the names you'd know now, used to hold, I can't remember the name of it. It was along the lines of Open Beers or BYOB or something, and it was everyone just brought cans to the office after work, and it was in Contrast office, which became Intercom effectively. And we used to. That was the kind of start of our group, and actually it's a very tight group. It's funny. The group has kind of just grown from that over the years. We've all gone off and done different things, but it's.
Okay. So what did the time spent in Reuters? You said that you were sort of looking at senior tech managers and not wanting to be in that sort of a role, or feeling that it was something that wasn't going to challenge you. Did you feel you learned anything during the 2 years there?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, definitely valuable, especially to see a company like that operate. I mean, it's 160,000 employees.
Okay.
It's completely different. I have no interest in it now at all. Zero interest in that.
Okay.
But I did. You get put on all the training courses for stuff, and I wouldn't change that.
Okay. So you built a very MVP version of Decisions, and you sent it out to friends, family, and fools, I guess, around the coast. And what happened then? So so you quit Reuters. What happened on the Monday?
On the Monday, I got left in Singapore by Reuters when they found out what I did. So they didn't book me a flight home. So I was left out there with all my stuff. And I came back to Dublin, moved back in with the parents, reduced all costs down, and just started working on the product. And I was very much, I want to do this myself, and I didn't even look into any incubators or anything like that. And then, Joe Drumgoole sent me an email saying, I've booked you in for an interview at Hot House. You need to be on that. So I turned up that and got a place on that, and then we kind of did that incubator. And I spent a year building technology myself on my own, just writing code, thinking this is the way to go about it.
Not talking to any customers.
Lightly talk. Yeah, I mean, but I knew I had a good idea myself as well.
Okay.
It wasn't isolated, but in terms of sale, there was absolutely no thought going into a business model or sales. Put it that way.
So who that it was Hot House. That was what, a 6-month placement. Were you embedded in the office, or were you still at home?
It was a year, yeah.
It was a year?
And I
Okay.
mainly worked from home. I
Okay.
didn't like going to the office. It was distraction. And they do courses and you sit in and all that, and went through that. Spent a year trying to build it. Spent a second year trying to sell it myself.
Okay.
Then had just enough revenue to hire a first person. Was kind of still myself on a tiny kind of salary. And this is the bootstrap. It's the long route. Hired a first person who started doing some sales. And that it started building. But I mean, it's incredibly slow ramp to build it that way.
Maybe just step back there, 'cause
Yeah.
that's a lot of stuff that you just covered, like
Yeah.
for sales and first hire and stuff. To talk about that first time going out into the market and deciding, okay, I think this is ready for somebody to present them to and ask them for some cash.
Okay. So we were ready to launch, and then I thought, well, I have to be able to charge people money for this. So I better build in credit card processing, because that's what a web app does. So went to AIB, and then you go through the whole merchant account saga. 3 months later, we've delayed launch by 3 months to build in the credit card processing. That's all in. Now we can launch. I think it was around May 2009, and we launch, and I had a good few kind of beta users who were using it, and I got a first sign up, but it came with an email saying, can we pay by check? After this 3 months waiting. So this...
You're like begging them, like, please use the credit card. You know,
so this check arrives, and it's in like old Western sheriff font, like, I can't even describe it. It's like Clark County, Mississippi, and like this old Western font, and the check, and I went, wow, these are my first customers. And so I looked up on Google Street View, and it's just a crossroad with tumbleweed on the street view going through it. 3 Baptist churches and no houses at all. And I thought, oh no. My impression was this was going to be, US Coast Guard.
Yeah.
We're going to be buying, and it's this little volunteer team in the deep south. And so I see then the thing goes in, and the name's Dana is the name. And I'm like, oh, it's obviously an Irish girl in Mississippi who's bought it, and that she must know who I am or something like that. So I ring, and can I speak to Dana, please? And this is Dana. You're like, oh my God, I have really misjudged this. And it's the first time in my life I realised that to them I sound like a leprechaun.
Yeah.
Like if that's what they sound like, this is full on redneck on the other end of the phone. I definitely sound like a leprechaun. So I mean, part of what we've done over the last number of years is completely Americanise the output of the company. So everyone in the office writes in US English. Everyone uses US dates. We do all this. We have US phone numbers and lines. Everything you wouldn't know, except for the accents.
That was a pretty good redneck accent.
We're
I like that. Yeah.
that we're in America. You learn these ones.
How did that first customer find you?
I had been kind of hanging in SAR forums, search and rescue forums. We were focused on search and rescue at the time. And I was just kind of commenting, here's this thing I'm working on, anyone want to try it for free? And that free period went on for a good year, where I was kind of building bits and everyone was giving feedback. And
how were you funding yourself at that stage then?
The Hothouse program came with a 50% salary, which I lived off, and cut my rent.
Was the Cord grant?
It could have been, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I lived off that, but that ran out after a year, and then there was kind of another year gap. It was probably another 2 years, and then we did the competitive startup fund.
Okay.
Was the next one.
Very good. So sorry, I cut across you there. So they found you through a forum.
Yeah, I was just posting it. I'm working on this, but like it's such a different era now. There was no software and tools like that. You go into one of those forums now, and there's 5 people showing off cool mobile apps that do stuff for this. Yeah. Back then, there was nothing on the market for this. It was brand new.
So you keep saying we, but I'm assuming at that stage it was
just
it's the royal we. Right?
Yeah.
So you're writing code, building your credit card systems.
Yeah.
Volunteering still? Like, were you back volunteering
once
at that
back
stage?
in Ireland, yeah.
And then continue to sort of like stay in touch with the community. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
What was driving that for you? I mean,
I had a lot of free time then compared to now.
Yeah, you had no team to manage, I guess, and there's this flip side on that. But how much of it at that stage was driven by, I don't know, a passion because you believed the tool was right, or because you wanted other people to see that it was working for you? What was pushing you at that stage to keep going? Because it sounds shit. I mean, most people will want to be out having a good time or taking a nice salary and.
Yeah, I was probably enjoying just doing my own thing and controlling it myself, and I definitely wanted it to be my thing, and this was going to be great. And I was doing the startup thing, and it was good. I don't want, and I didn't want, I never, back then you get pushed and pushed to go for funding, and it was go and raise. Everyone's the minute you finished the hothouse, like everything was about pitching for funding.
Yeah.
And I did all that, and you go in and I kind of probably half-heartedly did it a bit, and I didn't believe it was probably $1 billion company that you had to pitch it as, otherwise you're not,
Okay.
And so I just never felt. What I wanted to build was a great company. It was this, like, I was very into that. It was like, this should be a great company, not, a great product, a great place to work, a great, everything about it should be great.
Solving a great problem.
Yeah. Just that's what it was about, and it's still about. I would say it's very much about that.
Okay. So is it, and this goes back to the very first point I made in terms of, like, solving your own problem.
Yeah.
Did you feel that you were actually making your team more effective? Could you get a sense of that by using the tool?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
using the dog food or whatever.
It's scary when D4H is like I don't know, is it a verb or a noun? It's probably both in these teams. But like everything you hear, look on D4H, and it's crazy. Last week I was in Vancouver last week, and you have a guy completely unrelated to the team who I was amazed even had heard of it, walks in, and that wasn't scheduled on D4H. It's like they use it like it's just the store of data for their stuff, and that started happening, and that's where the name came. It was Decisions for Heroes, and all our customers shortened it to D4H.
That's cool.
And then we bought D4H as a domain name because they used that. It was the full Decisions for Heroes. Now it's D4H Technologies. It's a bit more enterprising.
Okay. So in those early days when you were going out to the customers, to Dana in Mississippi, did they start asking questions in terms of support and customer service and SLA, service level agreements?
Yeah.
In terms of, like,
probably you would say you could never build a business off the type of customers we had.
Okay.
They were all very small, probably quite voluntary search and rescue teams.
Are they still a customer?
Who?
The
Them?
very first?
Yeah, the very first one's still a customer. Yeah.
That's cool.
Still pays them.
Still pays
them.
check.
Pay by check, and they've moved to annual subscription. Yeah. And actually,
it's better for the environment, right? There's less.
I even went and visited them, and we went blackwater diving, which is where you get into a swamp, like completely black swampy water, to look for evidence or bodies or whatever.
Oh, wow. That's such a cool life.
Yeah. So they took
that's
me
the other
doing
thing
that.
you see in his Instagram. Lots of food and lots of really scary situations. Like, most people wouldn't put themselves into.
So I try and visit we have a kind of a policy of a certain level customer. We'll visit.
Okay.
It's just that even though we've sold online, the whole thing's virtual, we'll go visit them, because it's just from a point of view of the key account management of it. It's to get the upsells later, to get into their other teams, to the land and expand approach through it. Once you're there and you get to know them, and having the rescue background or the emergency response background and a couple of the certs that are needed to partake in some of these things, they're delighted to bring you along.
Just going back to the question, did a point arise when people were saying, listen, we love this, our team is telling us that it's a wonderful tool to use, we're happy with the price, how big is your customer support team, in case something goes wrong, and we're 8 hours behind you, were you just lying and saying, we've got this massive team in Dublin ready to support you? Or?
I don't really know. When I was talking about making a great product, I was focused on the whole experience being great. And I go out of my way personally for that still, for customers, to make sure it's a great experience. We get, everything about it is focused on that. And we've even huge customers now. I mean, now our support is still Irish office hours,
okay,
effectively. But there's no one on call after, and we now only get 100,000 users, and we get 2 support tickets a day by email. There's nothing. Yeah. It's just because the product is really, really good and mature, and it's normally I forgot my password. But we just have never had that problem, and people experience the product and go, their worries just drop off.
Okay. Yeah. So at some point along there, when you're talking to customers, you were introducing yourself as founder of Decision for Heroes at the time.
Yeah.
And I noticed on your LinkedIn profile that you describe yourself as director.
Yeah.
What do you introduce yourself as now?
So it's interesting. We've gone through sort of all sorts of stages where at the moment we're trying to appear a lot bigger than we are to get bigger contracts.
That's what I was trying to ask you in terms of like, we're massive, we've got all the support stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
That's more recent. But yeah, being the founder isn't, and especially in if you're selling to public service or big oil and gas or
Absolutely.
these enterprises, founder is not a good thing. I actually don't even have managing director, I just say director now.
Yeah.
So because quite often I'll end up very quickly in a sale or even an engineering thing, I can end up on the phone. And to be the CEO at that stage in a sale, being involved is just wrong. So I just say director, or that's all on my card would say.
Okay.
I play that down a fair bit.
And maybe talk a little bit about that selling to the big public sectors and local agencies and sort of state authorities.
Yeah.
Did you find that people were pushing back and kind of saying, we only deal with companies, because I know this is a problem with Enterprise Ireland, they were like, sorry, unless you're trading for 5 years and you've got 3 million on the balance sheet, forget it, we just won't do business.
Oh, we had ones where it was, you must prove you've 250,000 in revenue a year. And it to go for tiny, right? Yeah. We didn't have it at the time. Yeah. And you're trying to blag all these things that, well, we will have it by that, but once you sign up, if you pay me, double our revenue. Yeah. You just blag a lot of that as best you can. But
how much of it were you able to sort of socially engineer or socially hack? Because there's photographs of you wearing the rescue gear with a porpoise. Were you able to say to the teams, to the chief, whatever? It's like, I understand your pain. You really got to put some pressure upwards, please, and help everybody out.
Once you're into a procurement process, you're not going to influence that. Mm-hmm. Where we can influence it is with the guys on the ground, absolutely. Even more so once they become a customer and we get a little closer to them. And there's a couple of guys in the office, it's not just me, who are in emergency management and all sorts of pieces, that we can have pretty legitimate conversations with people around these things. It's not just technology. Okay, so you're dealing with customers and that's starting to grow and you're winning a couple of contracts. You're introducing yourself as director. You obviously at some point realized that you needed to hire a sales guy. Mm-hmm. How did you look at your own skills? Presumably you were still writing code and adding features. Yeah, still am. You're still writing code? Yeah, it's crazy. How did you look at your own sort of operations, look at your own capabilities and say, well, what's the one thing that I need now that will enable me to scale or to add new features? Or what was the rationale behind getting a sales guy? Because most people who hire in their first sales director fire them very fast, because it's usually a really difficult thing to do. So so there's a story behind that. Our first, I wonder if I probably got the order of this a little wrong. Effectively, the first guy I hired came out of the rescue team was on, right? And he wasn't a sales guy. I think his title was team contact. I don't know what we were doing really. I was like, let's go out and contact teams. I have no clue at all. So there was that kind of period for maybe a year. Then I don't know. There's been a couple of other people in between. Mark, who's in the audience here, joined about 4 years ago, upping actually as a proper sales. After Mark started, I think I got the order right, we got the competitive startup fund, and we spent the whole bunch on a sales director type of guy, who after 9 months made $0, well, we do everything in dollars, $0, euro, doesn't matter what currency that's in sales, and that money gone along with 10% of the company. Yeah. Thanks very much, taxpayer. Yeah. So he's gone, obviously. But just go back to the question. Like again, you're looking at yourself and you're looking at all the possibilities that the company can grow. You've got a product, you've got some customers, you're getting good feedback. And it's like there's only one Robin. Why did you not hire a CTO and say, I'm going to do all the sales? Okay. What was that thinking? My comfort space is product. Okay. So where I want to be is product. And I'm a solo founder effectively, where I've had to do all the other things. I don't mind doing any of them, but I naturally, an hour left at the end of the day, I fall back to product.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know really. I like that's where I'd sit. Why did I hire that role? We just needed to start moving sales of it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So maybe let's talk a little bit about then that expansion. You've obviously got somebody at some point who was able to get more than $0,
Yeah.
and that revenue started going in. Talk about that expansion then, and starting to win more business in presumably North America.
Yeah. So about 80% of our revenue is North
Okay.
America.
Wow.
It's. I mean, we just really were quite being clumsy around. We were inventing it as we went, all the way. Just completely experimenting with things. We've done so many things wrong. It's incredible, and learned as we went. I don't know what to say. I mean, when we started, we didn't know what a sales pipeline was. We didn't know, we were reading this stuff and going, oh, we need a CRM. Like, I mean, really just like experimenting with it. And it was kind of a nice time in that there wasn't we had there was some subscriptions there, kind of sitting on those and just experimenting with what we were doing. We went through we were focused very heavily on search and rescue, and that at the time was very much volunteer sort of team search and rescue. And there was this realization that this is not going to build a company. We need to go bigger than this. And we went into professional, and we tweaked it a bit, and we did that wrong
just
for a
for
while.
anyone who's not in the industry, when you say professional,
Like full-time firefighters, full-time. Well, at the time we were dealing heavily with like volunteer rescue teams, because that's where we were just the product.
Who have
was-
no cash.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that progression has been up to sort of what we class now as enterprise accounts, which are the big companies. Effectively, the product's the same.
Okay.
They use the same product. There's a couple of different enterprise bits of functionality. It solves the same problem. We used to charge maybe back then probably $40 a month to use the service.
Per seat?
No, for the service. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and the same product now we've charged people a good $60,000 a year for the exact same product, but shipped in an enterprise sort of scope. So it completely changes where you.
But getting those big accounts, moving from that sort of, integrate. From my perspective on it, getting into those volunteers is bottom up, right?
Yeah.
Because you go in, you're a volunteer, they relate to you, you can show them very quickly that it's working for you, it'll work for them, and you can do that. You virtually, you can do a lot of that, through a call or through some sort of WebEx screen sharing. Setting to, who was your first big we call it enterprise now, right? Who was your first big state professional sale?
So we had a firefighter in the US who took a shine to us, and what we were doing in the product, and was really into technology, and he would just took it and ran in his fire department. He's like, oh, this is exactly what I want, and that gave us one. He pushed it through there, and it gave us one kind of professional account, and then just this land and expand, focus on the team beside them, go to the next team, and we just started building it.
And then the transition for you for that then is that it's going from an inbound sales into going out to the customer.
Exactly, yeah.
And rocking up and saying, hi, I'm a tiny startup from Dublin, you should totally buy our software.
Yeah, and so.
How did you prepare for that?
You don't, you just go to it. There's no, I'm trying to think who even today, we're still involved in things today where you have discussions in the office where we're too small, we've bitten off a lot here.
Okay.
And it's because there's as big a deal as you want out there, and you're the size company you are. It's no different to me now than just they're a lot bigger than they were then. They felt the same. It still just felt going big.
So go back to the point you mentioned there a few minutes ago in terms of being, excuse me, the solo founder and having to do, even as you said, writing code. Talk a little bit about sort of, the flexibility that gives you versus how to make decisions, and that's not a pun intended, knowing the name of the company, but where do you seek advice from at this point?
Ask me that again, between seek advice and...
So when we talked, okay, so let's put it in the context of the new product that you built.
Yeah.
So you managed to grow the business to a point where you had enough revenue coming in that you could reinvest, which is an incredible feat. I mean, that's remarkable. Most companies just aren't able to do that.
Yeah.
That's what investors are supposed to come in and do, right? But you managed to do that. And that is really remarkable. So you suddenly have all this revenue, and you're like, we need to build a new product.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide what to build?
So
because you could have built anything at that stage.
Our customers started using our existing product for the wrong thing, and I was like, hold on, what are they doing with this? And they'd be ringing it, there'd be support queries. We're using it during the incident, and it doesn't work offline. You're like, it's not designed for that.
Give me an example of that. Like, who are these companies, and what?
Guy sitting in a fire truck. The fire trucks have little office labs, kind of, and incident rooms in them, in the big ones. And they would have our software on a laptop with a, they joke they've more broadband than oxygen on these things. Right? Like, they're really high tech trucks, comms vehicles, and they're sitting in there with our product open on screens all around the truck, and they're logging the incident. They're filling in the incident report as they go. Now, that tool was built for after action reporting. It was like, back at your desk, what happened at the incident. So there were all these feature requests around making it work during the incident. And so at that point, it was like, we need to do something completely different. We started off that route building that product, which was going to be the offline component of the product that they could use then out in the field.
Okay.
And very quickly saw the opportunity to build something that would go much higher up the chain. So when I say that, if you take a fire department in an oil and gas company, they have their budget that's there, but the emergency management team above them have a much bigger budget. Okay. And then above them you have the board, and effectively this new tool, we stepped all the way back out of the operational response and looked at the actual response the corporate would have, or the state or province would have, allowing the product be used by literally the CEO of a company would look at the dashboard, not the fire chief. And that means you can charge an awful lot more. And so the minute we realized that, this product kind of went right off where we had started from and went into a completely different, and actually it's probably only applicable now for half of our customers, where when we started it was going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
It's only now really suitable for the big ones.
What's that's like, if we just unpack that statement there, sort of like, we thought it was going to be for absolutely everybody, and then we had to maybe chuck that idea and focus on this new use case. As someone who is so product focused and someone who sometimes writes code, how do you train yourself away from saying, I'm just going to maybe just write another feature, and if I add maybe just one more feature, then maybe everybody will use it, because that's what happened version 1.
So when I say I write code, I write like 1999 code that's suitable for our older product. Okay. The new thing is clear above my head. I haven't written a thing. I haven't touched the new product.
What's that feel like?
First experience of having a cost to make changes. So I always say, people always ask me, I'm going to start this technology startup. I'm like, great, are you a coder? No. Well, you realize that unless your co-founder is, every single tweak is a cost. And not just your time. You can't work extra hours and do it free. You now have to pay a contractor or hire someone. Suddenly it's not unlimited. When you're able to do it yourself, there's kind of infinite feel about. I always say you're like equivalent of a carpenter with an infinite wood pile of where we just can keep building. There's no cost to it when you can do it yourself. Yeah. It's very different than that. So you have to you can't just try things out. Mario is the lead engineer. He's there. He'd probably tell you all the frustrations of me standing over his shoulder.
It's probably even more frustrating for him standing over your shoulder watching you like.
I don't touch that product. It's more that I've learned I probably do product design through just doing, rather than planning. Probably the wrong way, but and that's hard to do as a third party job.
And just to go again to talk about that R&D, right? That's usually what kills a company is trying to iterate on something, and at the same time you're supporting an existing customer base and a product base, developing features on that. What was and this goes back to the question that I probably phrased really badly. When you were approaching that, kind of saying, so we've got a bunch of resources, we're going to support the existing customers, we're also going to put a lot of money into R&D.
Yeah.
Did you talk to other people and say what worked for you? No. Would you go back and do it differently?
Not particularly. Like the only challenge with that, like we had separate engineering resources, so there was never any this or that. The engineers worked on different products. Where we didn't was sales, so the business side of it, we always are defaulting back to the product that's making revenue. So it's quite hard to find time to sell the new product because it's not as easy as selling the old product. And we're just trying to force ourselves into making that time, making that space. And that's what we're doing at the moment, is the hire we're making is to try and start segmenting that off. So there's designated people working on it.
Did you also find that for you, because presumably you were excited about the new product, was it hard to sort of rein back and when we were pushing new product onto customers and say, no, I hear what you're saying, but listen to what I'm telling you about this new product. It's amazing. We did this, did that. Was that challenging when you were going?
No, it's okay. No, it's all good. The product's amazing. So it's like easy to. It's really amazing. So it's our challenge is just learn. Where I said it's split off from our customer base, it's actually for a much higher up place up the chain. We've had to learn that, and that's been the slow bit now, is learning that language, learning how they buy, learning how to approach them. It's completely different at the operational level.
How did you start to figure out pricing? Because you said that the first check was like $100 or something like that, or
40
bucks. Did you just pull that? It's like whatever, 40. Was that a top down? I need 40
the initial
quid
price
to
came
get
from
food, or was it a sort of I think this is how much they can afford?
The 40 came from what somebody I knew in a rescue team, a particular rescue team, could spend without getting a receipt. That's where the 40 came from. It's the first price. I'll try that price. And then what we've done is.
Did you have any sense at that stage as to how much it cost you to acquire the customer?
No.
Right.
No, this was just, let's see what happens. Now we look at, obviously, the whole kind of scope of it. But and now we've got tiered pricing, so it depends if we've still got that volunteer, it's nearly given away free to those guys. Volunteer teams, with professional teams, and with the enterprise teams. So that they're all paying different rates. They're getting a different service level, for sure. But effectively the product is quite a similar product that they get. But the enterprise end is into security and SLAs and support now. All this stuff that the others don't need. So.
Okay. I remember seeing I think it was a Facebook update from you recently where you mentioned a team member closing a deal after an obscenely long
843 days.
Tell me about that. That's an incredible story.
So that was the capital of Canada. Right?
Okay.
And that's how long public service procurement can take. So that's from our initial conversations with them, meeting them at a trade show. Was where I met one of the guys there, and bringing that, just getting that through public service procurement is that long, and that was I know that's what this that's a very long one, but they are long still. They're normally 6 months to a year, depending on from our first contact to getting them through.
Talk about the tactics. I mean, do you just keep on, doing the same thing, butting and butting and butting, or do you have a pipeline that you're sort of moving people down along, kind of saying we're going to get them to this stage and sign up that division or something like that? Like,
so and our sales have been, I would say, if someone who is experienced in sales, like none of us, we've all been kind of learn. It's a very young team who are learning as we go massively, and so it was last year. Mark went on the EI International Selling Program, which was fantastic. So that brought in a whole set of processes that we now have in sales, and Mark's got that up and running in terms of there's now a process there. There's now, people get no time before they're called fall down. So they don't miss a call, they're a fall down. Everyone's treated really harshly. Our big mistake for years was just that, but they might buy, and that the pipeline got bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're spending your time just, so everything, stuff has to have massive momentum now for us to be focusing on it. And then we put in Robert's there as well. He looks after everything coming, all new business, and he's vetting the stuff, qualifying it to a really high level. So by the time it goes to sales, we've got the most senior person we're going to get. They've got a project running. They've got authorization to have budget. There's a whole set of things that he'll make sure, and that might take him 2-3 months to work with that contact, and he'd be sending them white papers and just really trying to build up a level of trust. And that gets them brought forward through into sales once that project's been formed. We can't decide when these guys are going to have budget or a project or time to move they're moving their entire IT system a lot of the time onto us. So we've just got to play that along and be there when they're ready to push along.
Do you find that they, every now and again they say, is Robin coming over? Because you're it's sort of the business is you, and you're so visible as the hero going out. You're still out. Come on, don't be too modest. You're still out there doing the rescues. You're living the life of the teams, the guys on the ground, and you're also delivering the solution. So do you find that they kind of say, we're at the trade show, is Robin going to be there?
No, between us we've got kind of different areas that I don't know all our customers at all. There's certain areas that I know I'm very comfortable with, or been doing a long time, that I will know customers in.
When you say area, do you mean geographies or?
Yeah, well, so like Mark does all oil and gas, so I wouldn't know them as well as he'd know them. You can't go everywhere, right? So I haven't met everyone, but I kind of we just but no, you don't. I don't get asked for it.
Talk about the team. You said that they're all young. Some of them are involved in response teams as well. Like you do, because you're so passionate about it, because you're involved in the industry. Do you find that you're looking for that enthusiasm for the industry as well? It
depends on the role. So ideally it's great if it's there, but it's not a requirement. So we're hiring sales at the moment. That person we particularly want to have industry knowledge. We need them to have the level of banter with them around fireman jokes, whatever it might be, right?
Can you tell us a fireman joke?
No, I'm not a fireman. But that's who we're targeting with this hire. Is fire department, special operations.
So to dig into that then, when you say they need to have industry experience, does that mean that they have sold into the industry?
Just or awareness, like sold into it or have been involved in it. So like someone who was a firefighter earlier in their career or something and has done a bit of sales is perfect for that. We can't teach them that culture. We can teach them the bit of sales. We can give them our sales process. Here's the instructions in the manual. Move the deals through these. If it's reached these checkpoints, it does this. Send this email. We've got this whole process there. That we can teach somebody. It's very hard to give them that culture. That's learned over years of doing that, of interacting. So for someone to come in and have an impact, they need to. It's quite a niche language, niche space, right? So. Having that little bit of knowledge. It's not a huge bit of it, it's just a bit of the language, understanding who's what.
Are you still involved in every hire?
Yep. Yeah.
Talk about that process then in terms of the hiring for you.
So this one's the first time I've not done the first call with them. Actually. I would always.
Sorry, for what role?
This is a sales role we're doing,
Okay,
but
yeah.
normally, I've always vetted I've always gone through every application, and just taken out everyone I don't want, and then I'll ring everyone I'd consider, and then I pass them on to the guys. I haven't had a chat with them and said you can hire any of them. Which should we come? And tell me which one you think.
There's an awful lot in that couple of nice,
Yeah.
gentle, easy words there. What when you say you look at a bunch of documents or CVs or whatever it happens
just
to be,
their applications.
what's a red flag? How can you red flag on a CV?
You go on their cover letter, you'd be able to red flag quickly.
Spelling mistakes?
Could be.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can tell a lot of. It depends what the role is completely, right? And you're going to know, the type of person. We talk in depth about the type of person we want to get. Are they going to fit the culture of what we're trying to do? We know what's not going to work. We know, and we'll just try and put forward maybe 10 candidates to go further with. These are the ones seem to be a good fit.
Okay. And is that based on, I don't know, learning from other people who are hiring, or past mistakes?
We make all the mistakes ourselves and rarely make some.
Very proud of that.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're
So take that then and go back to spending taxpayers' money on a sales person who didn't work.
Yeah.
What did you think you were getting when you hired them?
I thought we were gonna get I didn't know anything about sales, and that was the problem. Was I hired them thinking this is great, and they had a great CV. This was perfect. Industry and sales experience, and they it was probably they must have been bluffing, obviously, right? And I didn't know, and all these take time, and and I've got these at this level, and we're calling these this week, and just chatter being sold effectively, and I didn't know what was good sales, so I was like, well, that's what I've hired you to do. This must be good enterprise sales, and it's kind of I didn't know what it's impossible to manage that. You can't, now I'd know from mistakes what I'd be looking for.
At what point of the hiring interview do you say, and also, by the way, we work in a lighthouse?
We
is that usually we open with that?
Yeah.
Does
We'd say come work in a lighthouse.
Do you bring people in and get them to embed with the team, get to know them a little bit? Like even pre-hire, get people in to do.
They'll come and do an interview or two, but it depends. If they're an engineer, we'll give them some stuff to do.
Okay.
Sometimes, but it varies. We have not done enough hiring to have a hiring process in comparison to our sales or other functions. It's something that we haven't done a huge amount of, so we're still learning that very much.
So the team is around 10 or thereabouts, or 10 at this stage. You mentioned that 80% of your customers are in the US.
Yeah.
You're servicing everything from Dublin?
Everything's from Dublin, yeah.
Do you think at some point you're going to need to expand that?
Yeah. So this hire we're looking at, can we get somebody in the US as well as part of that? Okay. So in whatever form that happens in, but we know we need to do that. We know we need to be there for sure.
What's driving that? Is it
deals get to a certain value that you have to then be there? You get to this awkward point where they're like, right, well, the web demo was great. Well, when are you visiting? And so you have to go. West Coast US is, 4-day trip if you do it. So it's not. We can do it for the very big ones, but we need to be doing it more. So we've tried things. We've got a distributor in the US who they'll go and visit a customer, no problem for us. And we've been patching that over as best as we can.
Okay. But do you think it's a specific trigger in terms of, a new sector opening up that is like, okay, I absolutely have to do that? What's
No, what we're trying to reduce sectors where we're just trying to focus at the moment on one thing and do it incredibly well. One sector. We've so many that we're just too small to have all the verticals we've kind of got ourselves into, and so we're trying to focus all our energy on special fire operations, is the kind of title.
specialist fire
which is
operations.
everything except putting out a house fire, effectively. So
Okay.
it's all your specialized chemical response, explosives, river rescues, like everything a fire and rescue team do that's not a domestic house fire.
Okay.
Technical rescues, cliffs, car, road accidents, all that kind of stuff. So that has very specialized equipment, very specialized training, and it's where our product kind of fits in.
How's that going to impact on your role as director? At some point, you're going to stop calling yourself director when you've got a North American operation, become a CEO.
Maybe, yeah. President.
President. The North Americans are like that. Yeah. Do you think that you have the operation at a point where if you're going to be spending more time in the US, getting that off the ground, that this can continue?
I mean, we are very. I'm on the road a lot. I'm
Okay.
not required to be in the office for the company to function. It's like it's not. While it appears like me, the company is built. All right, like we've been going long enough. There's solid processes there.
Yeah.
It's. We can bring new staff in, and they're into the process. We're not inventing that.
What does that feel like to let go then of something that is entirely your creation? You're your own co-founder in that you're the person who understands the industry and also build the product.
Yeah.
And does it feel empowering to step away and know that can still happen, or is it terrifying and you kind of come back and think they've burnt down the lighthouse and they've released all the wrong code?
No, it's fine, and that's just trust. It's working with people long enough and knowing, you wouldn't give them like my style, and it probably is influenced by the rescue background. It's all about giving a lot of responsibility to people. So I don't think I really ever hold back on that. This is yours, and I think that by giving people more responsibility nearly than they'd expect, they perform to match that. Whereas you're worse saying, trying to keep too much control of things. Everyone will tell you I'm really controlling, but that's what I'm trying to do. Is give a lot of responsibility.
That's a very peculiar environment to recruit in. How do you communicate all of that to somebody when you're hiring them? It's like, because they're already overwhelmed that it's a lighthouse. That you expect them to be in a rib for photographs. What if they're seasick? But to kind of.
We've had hires that have gone really wrong. Like, it's not an environment for everyone.
But if you're trying to recruit someone away from a Google, it happens occasionally.
Yeah.
You're putting them into an environment where it's like you're going to be working with the founder. This is the person who has the vision and wrote some of that code and stuff. That's a very intimidating environment to hire somebody into. Do you find?
I didn't realize that.
I would find that intimidating.
Yeah. No, it's I don't really have an answer on it.
Do you find recruitment particularly difficult?
Dublin is difficult now for everybody, in terms of recruitment. The lighthouse thing, it's an absolute bonus in terms of the novelty.
Yeah.
It definitely attracts people to it, but where we're located, we probably can only attract people from half of the city. So you're not getting all options, and we're aware of that too. There's kind of the lighthouse is kind of cool.
Do you find though that giving people that responsibility is part of the draw then?
I guess that's only going to appeal to certain people, and they're the type of people I want. Everyone just comes and goes in the office and have their own schedule. The job is get the work done in terms of the results, and everyone does their thing. It's not. There's some people are in late, some people are in really early. We check in once a week. I check in once a week with everyone, and just keep progress going. We are doing so much stuff with such a small team. There is no space to hide. We are unbelievably maxed out in terms of the stuff we're doing. Is every day we're like, wow, this is incredible. How are we doing this with such a small team? It's great, and so it's exciting.
You mentioned there the challenge of Dublin and it being difficult to hire and clearly with staff retention, you're pretty good on that side of things. Do you what's keeping you here? If so many of your customers are in the US, wouldn't it be easier just to move to Mississippi or to Texas or?
Yeah, I think we will end up doing something there. I mean, we're going to trial a salesperson there for a couple of weeks this summer. So put a salesperson over there, base them there for a month, and just see what the difference is in terms of it's like a cheap experiment to see, do we like this idea of having remote people there? We've an engineer at the moment we've just hired in Canada who's working in Canada. I think we'll do more of that as well, more remote work. It's just paying as we need it. I mean, keeping it flexible is not a big. The master plan is being written as we go. I have an idea where it's got to be, but making it up along the way.
So you're at a position with the product now where it's almost an indispensable business intelligence tool. As you're talking about that dashboard that goes right, top to bottom stack, and you can see all of the data and all the information. Where do you think your next product iteration is going to take you? Because the way I see it from your description, you've got so much opportunity. You can start looking at other technologies to plug in, and there could be lots of opportunities to make a mistake here. Where do you think it's going to go?
So the next piece is getting that. What we don't do very well at the moment is mobile. Right? So it's getting all of that out, and it's not a mobile phone. It's heads-up displays and stuff. It's getting it in an entirely different, in an operational. So the guys on the ground undertaking a rescue are feeding back imagery, able to access data that they need, all those kind of pieces. That's where I see what we're doing go. And all of that is around getting the guys at the very top of the pyramid better data by giving the guys on the ground better tools to record the stuff. Okay. That's where we're going.
Okay, conscious we've been sitting here for quite a while yapping to Robin, and at this stage I'd like to maybe open up to the audience for Q&A. You've all been very patient while I ask my questions. We've got a couple of mics, so just shout out your name, and we've got some prizes, as I said. It's not super fancy. Do you know this stuff?
Yep.
Subaru? Does anybody know this stuff? Subaru?
Yeah. Good Irish
product. It's a great Irish innovation. It fixes things. I've never used it. Apparently it's amazing. So I will fire this at you. Apologies if you get hurt. For questions. Cathal.
How's it going? So my question is, so when you're dealing with big ticket enterprises and very small volunteer groups, how do you prioritize the needs of your customer? Which is more important?
At the moment, now we've got a team and expenses and payroll. It's the guys you're paying.
Yeah.
And actually what we do now is if anybody wants, generally if they want functionality, we'll charge them for it now as well. So we're trying to make a bit of revenue off that as well. So it's, do you really, really want this? Well, that's going to cost our engineering department this much time to build, and it has to be on our roadmap. This isn't go build anything for anybody's stuff now. This is, if you want that moved ahead in our roadmap, if it's that worthwhile to you, we'll charge them a fee to do that. And that generally, that separates the people who really want it and don't need it, is to kind of put a cost on it. But yeah, it is difficult. It's difficult to balance the
Can I add a question? This is a great question, Carl, but just to expand on that. At what point then for you do you kind of like if a big paying customer said, I want a feature, I would pay you a lot of money for the feature, but you're listening to the teams on the ground who are saying, this is not going to work. How do you deal with that conflict?
If it depends, generally if that contract has a bigger picture, so there might be why are they wanting to pay it? Why, maybe there's something here we're missing that this is that valuable to them. So I mean, we'd investigate it. As a small company, if you're well funded, VC funded, you can go on your, that's where we're going and it doesn't matter because we've all the cash. We're not, we're bootstrapped. So, well, maybe that's a cheaper way. We'll take their money and we'll do that bit. We'll kind of hide it a bit. But Yeah.
Are you speaking from experience?
Yeah.
Did you do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, you got to weigh it up and then decide what's the best outcome.
Super. Great question. I've decided not to throw the Subaru at you. I think that's probably for the best. But you can come and get it at the end. Oshin. Go like that.
Hi Robin, very inspiring, congratulations. Going back to when you started, you entered with a really kind of specific, I suppose, specialised set of skills. You had your web developing, engineering, and you also had this search and rescue experience. What at the time would have been your biggest limitation? What was your biggest weakness, and how did you get over it?
Yeah, understanding how to sell things, like no clue, and got over that by trying it and trying it and trying it, and like getting it wrong so many times. Yeah, and just learning through. And that's the kind of thing of not having a burn rate, like as in there's not a pool of money where all the time we've grown, it's been what's our monthly recurring revenue? Okay, that's how much we can have in salaries, like literally new big customer, another hire. I mean, literally like that, and just stepping it up. So you're never, and though one of the really good facts is we've never had a customer cancel who wasn't maybe one of the very early voluntary teams that had no money, so it was nearly like a hobby group, let's call them. Other than them, we've never had a professional level or enterprise level customer cancel their subscription. The product is incredibly sticky and it gets absolutely ingrained into what they're doing. So we're pretty dependable on that revenue's there. So that gives us we've a number of times we've kind of plateaued and gone, let's explore what we're doing and get this right, and then there's another growth, and then we kind of have to learn again, and as you're going up the contract sizes for sure.
Oh, loads of questions. Andrew, Mike is just behind you. Oh, actually, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
Hello. In terms of allocating resources towards engineers or sales, how has that changed throughout the period? How many people are handling the technical side?
Yeah. So the product itself needs very little ongoing resources unless we're building new functionality in, and so those resources have kind of wavered a little bit depending on the kind of staff to keep it going is very minimal. It's where we need extra resources where we get a big contract, and part of that contract at the moment, for example, we need to build a rostering system. So rostering a whole staff team, we do that quite lightly, and it was one of our nice features was light rostering effectively until now. And now we've got bigger customers where we need full rostering. So that is a big project that we've got to build, and we'll hire to do that kind of piece, and then it'll kind of overtake sales a bit, and then it's wherever we're kind of at.
So you people.
Yeah, I mean the most important thing clearly is the sales. We're building a company to make revenue, so that is the priority. We can have the best product in the world, and if no one knows about it, what's the point? So, I mean, it's key, absolutely key, the commercial side of it.
Can I follow up on that question? Sorry, Andrew, you will get a question. Do you push back on points and say rostering? We're a search and rescue information management team.
Absolutely, yeah.
Buy something else.
Yeah, we always. So we push everyone to like an ideas forum kind of thing where they submit ideas, and there's 600 not done ideas in that. And yeah, like we implement very few of them, and if we do, they're directly linked to new revenue.
Okay.
So they're always directly linked to, like, the product is very deep and full featured. I mean, really, there's a lot in it already. Our existing customers need very little new stuff to be happy with the product. Where it comes to this point is where we're moving up a level, so we can actually charge these guys this much if it did these things. Okay. And adding to that enterprise level, adding to we started the product was only for one team. Now you can have multiple teams all connected into a big parent organization. That parent organization, if we build that, we can charge for that as well on top of it. And that's where a lot of it's revenue-based development, we kind of class it as.
Moving up the stack.
Yeah.
So you've got 10 people now?
Yeah.
And what do you see as your vision for the next 5 years or 10 years? Do you have a strategic vision out that far, or is it still the next customer?
Yeah, no, the vision, there's a couple of really big incumbent software companies in our market, and they're from the 80s, sort of haven't changed their product, incumbent, got into public sector, and just so these renewing contracts. That's kind of where we want to be, but keeping it modern. But those, that is absolutely there. It's there for the taking. We're already starting to knock them off at the lower end, and that's I mean, there's a massive market there for us to take this into. You know, part of the thing we try and do as well is get. I'll keep on the strategy point of view. We're trying to be the single source of data for, we say, when things go wrong. So it's the right information for when things go wrong, and that's the space we're trying to keep it in. So it's being the data source and capturing data and structuring data in a method that makes it the right information within when things go wrong.
Is your sales guy here?
Yeah.
He's going to kill you.
Why?
It took you nearly an hour to get your tagline.
To get the tagline, yeah.
Maybe you should say it again, just we get as many.
Yeah, the right information when things go wrong.
It's really good. Good second change.
You made a statement earlier saying that you didn't really know where the vision was. It just kind of complements that question. Do you think you've been able to do that and keep it internal and just relate to the team because you haven't taken investment? I know you may not like this question. Because it's been organic growth and that gives you your own flexibility to do it. And like there you question the logic of inserting rostering into this. I don't know, with investors, if you're taking big investments saying you're overextending yourself, but because you've done organic growth, you're able to do this and you're able to build whatever feature base you want.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to build it without knowing it's suitable for, as that. Before we'll do it, we'll contact everyone we think in our customer base is a suitable upgrade for. We'll make sure it's a legitimate piece. But yeah, I wouldn't want to do this without the control we have over it. We've pivoted so many times, not in a big way, but in terms of like market direction. Like, example, last year, we had, end of Q2 last year, we had, I think it was 5 of the 7 oil and gas companies in Canada, in the region Canada, where we'd been through IT, we'd been through legal, they had the contracts, we'd already signed them kind of level, and it was we're made. I mean, this was double your revenue stuff in a month, and the oil and gas market just dived, and we kept at it, and it'll recover in 2 months, quarter 3 it'll be fine. We didn't know anything about oil and gas, the oil and gas market, and it didn't recover. So kind of last Q3 the flexibility to just go, we did a complete U-turn back into public safety, and it was like, okay, we can turn this right, let's get it back. I mean, we had a sit down in the office, we'll get on to, let's start making lists, everyone we've ever talked to back before we went and started pushing on oil and gas, let's U-turn back into that hard. And the recurring revenue from that market was still there. We just hadn't been looking for it for new business. We thought, well, we've gone up to this higher thing. We just U-turn back in, and now that's been all our focus for the last 6 months or 8 months with great success. And that flexibility, and we'll make that change in one day in the office, and let's go on that. And that's what I love about it, is that we have that control.
Question. Man at the mic.
Robin, how are you doing? From Singapore to today, timeline-wise, what's the biggest monumental balls up you've made, and what did you learn from it?
Can anyone help me out from that? Might have an idea. Yeah, that one I just talked about, oil and gas was...
That sounds pretty monumental.
It was bad.
Why did you decide to keep going? Did you just go, oh, do you know what?
Well, we'd start...
Just fold the company, that was a disaster.
Oh no, it wasn't that. We had all the recurring revenue there, so it wasn't like, this was more just that our projections were this, and we were like this, and we'd started hiring on it, and this is great, these deals are coming, and they didn't. And we'd just gone into oil and gas because, well, an oil and gas site bought it. They just contacted, oh, can we use this? Yeah, you can. We're like, oh, this is easy money. And we can charge them absolute premium. And they buy loads of extra services and, oh, can you come in to give training? And, great. And so we just went after what was easy. And without learning anything about the market. And, had we have actually, like we would now, a little bit more understand the market and actually what the market's doing and watching the price of oil, and it's unbelievable it's that simple. But they've been the lessons, is not to go into a market before you know a lot more about it. Another good one is trade shows. We've wasted huge money on trade shows. We'd fly to Canada. We did I think we did 2 weeks in Canada doing trade shows back to back. And I'd say we made 0 sales and spent 20,000 easily. And it was we've now got a thing that we refuse to do a trade show unless we know 2 customers are attending the show. We won't go into any new market without having remotely got 2 customers. You get them there and you get them on your booth, and they're selling you there. And we focus. Everything's about just focusing on that sweet spot customer and working off that point.
Cool. Question there in the middle.
Thank you, Robin. You've touched upon this already, but can you describe a little bit about transitioning your brand from yourself to D4H, and is that complete yet? And what sort of challenges you've had trying to do that?
Yeah, I don't know if it was ever. I don't think anyone knew it was just me at the start. It was under the name Decisions for Heroes, and we were definitely, when it was just me, we were playing above our weight in terms of the contracts. The stuff we were doing was already quite interesting. The challenge has been, probably the biggest transition challenge was we went D4H Technologies. We moved to D4H Technologies, and this was our big enterprise. We're going to rebrand as enterprise, and we probably overdid it. So we overcooked the lack of culture in the marketing. We went full, let's take the most boring company in our market who's making a ton of money because they're really safe and boring appearing, and we'll take there and we're just going to put our logo on that and use all the corporate speak. And everyone's business titles went to, international manager, all really big, and we overcooked that a bit. And I think actually this year we've pulled that back a little bit, and we've revealed a little bit more of our culture, and tried to be more human, and it's definitely better that way. And you realize that I think those cultureless approaches that look really successful, they wish they had culture. There's no, they're not trying to be that. It's that they lack that.
Just follow-on question from that then. How much of that do you think is the industry? Because there is an emotional connection to you being in a space where bad things happen, and riding to the rescue, or is it a timing?
So, in an example, one of our biggest competitors in the equipment management piece is IBM and their Maximo product, right?
Okay.
So it's they're the kind of companies we're competing against. SAP, IBM. SharePoint, all the time SharePoint. So we're not competing against, we are the niche company. We go in and we're not a big technology company. We understand your needs. We've built this from the ground up out of emergency response. We've not replied to return some RFP that built a product to spec that's actually horrible when you get to use it. It's 8-9 years of people using it every minute of the day, sending feedback and us tweaking it, trying to make it a great product as it is. So it's very different than those products, and that's where we separate ourselves.
Kieran? Go.
Do EI still own 10%?
Yeah. What did I say on that? We've had some great successes with EI, and we use them, but you have to use them. So if every time when we've ever gone to a point where we sit back, it disengages completely and it's useless. You have to, we went through a phase, I think Mark would send an update every month maybe to each of the market reps, and we had 16 countries we were dealing with, but there's probably about 5 offices, and we'd send them a monthly update. Very like you do with updates, right? It's like this, here's what we've done, here's our successes, here's where what's gone wrong for us, here's where we need help. And if you send that to your market advisor in EI, they respond massively, because you're giving them material to work on. And suddenly you go, oh, I've got this intern free for a month, do you want research done? Or yeah, we can print these brochures for you, or I'll go to this trade show and spec it out for you. We get lots of that stuff. We also use them, we've used them a number of times where we've asked for a letter from them to say, I representative from the Irish government, please will you meet my client who will be in Calgary on this date, and can you send that to these 20 companies, and you bet you get 20 meetings out of that, and you get the right person as well. So but you have to use them. They don't bring anything. That's what we find after the initial stuff. It's you have to take it. You're not giving it.
Barry?
If I can ask 2 questions.
Go on.
Quick ones. First of all, just when you're selling a platform like this, how important is it to sell it on one particular piece of functionality or tool or use case, or sell the potential of the platform and where it can go in terms of rostering or reporting to management?
Yeah.
How do you sell that?
So we've a saying: sell them hope, and they'll buy anything. So we talk a lot about where it's going. We sell it at the early stages. The early stages are very open, and that's what Robert will be doing in business development side. It's like just talking about what could be, and that's all this hope piece. And then when we get purchasing signals off them, so that might be something that they start talking about, a budget or a project or a timeline maybe. Oh, by next year we need to be reporting this data to somebody. Well, that's when we start scaling down the project to as small as we possibly can, because the bigger that project goes into as a project for them, the more chance it has of failing. So we'll try and pick one tiny bit of functionality, one problem, and we'll sell it in on that, but we'll list all the list prices for all the upgrades. So here you're going to start spending this, you're going to come in on this, but in a year's time, are we in agreement that you're going to be adding all these bits on? And that's way more successful than trying to solve all their problems. And it's the same when the minute their imagination kicks off, especially with that new real-time product, it's highly customizable by them, and their mind goes crazy. They're into a $10 billion system of systems that's going to connect to everything, and really we're like, but if we just manage this one thing for you, we get it in the door, we make it a success, your IT department will start to like us. We've already been through the legals then on an easy kind of ride instead of like the big budget project, and that's what we do. Yeah.
Great, no, thank you. And the second question is just on your original Moleskin notebook, the list of ideas. Are you still planning to go through those?
Yeah. Some of them look hilarious now, from what I know, and also how the market's moved on. I'm trying to think what some of them were, but yeah, I mean they're there. Certainly. What's more interesting is what I wanted it to be, the categories and the ideas. So the filter of what I wanted the business to be. I thought of another good balls up actually over there. So for that question for Ronan, which was maybe last January, no, a year and a bit ago, we decided that part of our big Go Enterprise. So if we're going to go for big companies, what was happening was they started sending us. So you get to a big enough size contract, and they send you their legal agreement. So you suddenly get a service agreement from them.
All right.
To say this is the services you're going to provide, and this is the insurance you'll provide, and their IT and legals start sending you these documents. So we thought, well, what we'll do here is we'll counter with a massive legal document they'll think, well, we won't counter that, we won't, at least we know what's in the document, it's all in our favor. And so you can see where this is going. We'd send this legal document over, and it would go into their legal team, and it would just sit, and our sales just slowed. And actually, it was a night out with a couple of other, I guess, founders of companies the same stage as us, and I brought this problem up. I said, we've got this fantastic legal document. We've paid so much money for it. And our sales have stopped. What should we do? And someone said at the table, move the whole, effectively, like it was like 27 pages, and then at the last page was the signatures. So they said, move the signatures to page 2, and move the other 26 pages to size 8 font at the back, and put standard terms and conditions above the section. And it's been that we changed that, I don't know, 3-4 months ago only, and everyone gets returned next day. They just look at the first 3, and then the rest is non-negotiable. That's what they think. So we've asked them after they signed it, just to test it. Was the document okay? And they'd say, yeah, well, I assume everything under standard terms and conditions is non-negotiable.
Standard, yeah.
So we wouldn't, and it's in small font. So we're not going to negotiate that. And where they negotiate the first 3 pages, which are, this is the service we're providing, this is your SLA, these are the bits we can kind of talk about. They'll negotiate that in a day's time, but the rest is standard. They assume every customer has accepted that. Whereas when you made it in size 12 times New Roman, it looked like an editable Word document, and they'd set off into this to change all the terms. So that's probably a...
Are you ever tempted to
Seriously.
just stick something ridiculous into the terms and conditions? Like, you know, if you know, I demand at least a lighthouse per country that I visit, you know, that kind of stuff. I think you should do that.
Well, we have been rung actually by another country saying, we see you like lighthouses, would you like to rent one in the country? I don't think you get the concept. The lighthouse isn't critical, but
I think the answer is always yes. How can you say no to a lighthouse? Probably have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Yep. Yep. Did you give him one?
No.
Richa.
It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Richa, and then the gentleman in the beard afterwards. So, sure.
Thanks. So you started off writing the code. At what point did you start focusing on the business model? And how was that experience for you to change the focus and look at a different thing completely?
yeah, I probably, because I was solving my own problem, I knew it was going to be a business, but I didn't think about the business of it for a year. I was just, I'm going to write this great product, and the product's going to solve things, and people will buy a great product. And then you put it out and nobody buys it because nobody knows about it, and you've got this whole other problem. The transition has been enjoyable. I'm learning new things. Every day I'm learning new things. I'm probably learning nothing new about engineering anymore. I don't get that involved in it. I'm learning, I'm not in that anymore. I'm trying to do more about the business, but it's enjoyable. Like it's every year, the 8 years I've been doing it has been a completely different skill set and different learning and different. It's always changing and always different, and always moving.
Hi, my name is Eli. I'm co-founder of Quarul. So we help banks stay out of trouble by applying the rules. A totally different industry. But I'm interested in your insight about competition. When your customers ask you about the competing tools, which cards do you play? The company culture, the technical functionalities, or maybe you pull up a report, oh, we're more effective, more efficient, etc.
We get in at the very bottom level and build that it is that culture piece. It's that they completely understand we get this. They completely understand that at ground level we're on their side, and that's to the chief level in somewhere. So the chief is like, right, these guys completely get my guys. They understand my big problem here is going to be to get the guys using it, not just solve the technical problem, but how they've all these successful stories of actually people using it, and that just way often we'll get one champion. And they'll push it through and say, I'm not using this other one because this is so good. And we need that. If we just ever talked to procurement, where there was no emotional element of they understand the intricacies of the product, we'd probably lose against, we don't match up on the big companies' scale of safety.
Interesting, thanks.
So I'm going to close the Q&A there because Robin's going to stay around for at least one beer.
At least.
You can talk to me there, but I want to finish up with 1 or 2 questions of my own. What was it like for you firing that first salesperson, presuming that was the first sale? Or sorry, not the first sales, but the first sales. That was the first time you'd let somebody go. What was that like?
A relief. because I had probably let it go on months longer than it should have been.
Sure.
Like I was definitely questioning myself. I was going, this isn't right. I wouldn't do it this way. This doesn't seem right. But they're the big experienced senior person. They obviously know what they're doing. They're telling me they do. So it was a relief that I was right, I think. Should have done it after month 2, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a relief immediately or a relief when you managed to hire? Okay, it wasn't when you hired somebody
No.
to fill the gap.
They weren't doing anything.
Okay.
So there was
No gap.
it's just less cost.
What's a bad day look like for you at the moment?
Bad day. What's a bad day? When we get a lot of work, we can get sways of work. So at the moment, like spring and autumn are when the industry move. There's nothing happens in summer, nothing happens over kind of Christmas. There's a lot of, so it's now and autumn. And at the same time, we do a lot of travel, and that's when all of the contracts are being signed as well. And all the contracts come with some element of we need a little bit of technical work done, or there's some customization in some form, or training for them, or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're massively stretched on resources those 2 times of the year. So yeah, a bad day is like a to-do list of clients you have not contacted, or seeing you know, stuff just starting to stretch out where you're going, oh, there's a lot on here. But I think we're a little bit perfectionist about it, and it's that great experience thing. I don't like people not getting a response immediately. I don't like, and when you contact them, they're quite happy to.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, no problem, next month. You're like, oh, I thought that was urgent.
Yeah.
I'm always falling into that trap.
The next thing then is sort of, you know, along the lines of what do you do as Robin rather than director of D4H to cope with bad days? Because I'd imagine that work-life balance doesn't exist really, or is very challenging when you're the passionate founder solving your problem on a daily basis.
So
how do you switch off, and how do you recover from bad days? You're going to say food or something.
No. So 2 things. One is pretty much after work every day I go to the gym, which is Ronan's gym there, who's a gym entrepreneur. Talk to him after. So I do that straight after work every day, and that's because I might have a 6-minute commute, so you don't quite decompress in that. So I go to the gym pretty much every day after work, and then I'm involved in this Coast Guard stuff. And in terms of a release, in the last 24 hours, I've been to a jet ski adrift in Malahide Estuary. I've had a car off the cliff in Howth.
Shit.
And we've had a pollution spill near Lamb Bay. So I've done the 3 of those on boats, cliffs, and what else? The other one was by land in the last 24 hours alone. And so that is my other side of where I'm, and that was definitely as a solo founder. You know, as a solo founder, massively, it was a delight when the pager went off, which I would do 2-3 times a week, because you were being immersed into a team, and that was happening. And I was keeping, you know, massive part of it for me, for sure.
Cool, great. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I'd like to thank Robin for his time, considering that this we just learned is a busy time of the year. Apologies, but I'd like to thank you for your honesty and the insight and the passion you brought to this. So can I get a round of applause for Robin?